welcome and thank you very much. So thank you for you to join us today in this webinar. And would you like to very quickly just say hi to everyone, in the chat window? And also let me see that if I can recognize some of our alumni members as well as some new. Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, I already see some names which I'm familiar with. Welcome back. And welcome. And as you might or might not aware, this is the first of our 4 webinars talking about Agile transformation and the different aspects of it. So before I'm going to jump into content, first of all, just a very quick update in terms of what we're going to do today, okay? So we can do a little bit of greeting and a bit of introduction about who I am and who Leadership Tribe is. And then we're going to move on and going to focus a little bit more on what we are here today, okay? Let's try to talk a little bit more about change and organizational side of change, as well as trying to understand from the human side of change. But most importantly, we're going to focus on the human side of the change today. And we are going to discuss a little bit about, how can we actually, understand change using these models and how we can actually apply those models in reality. And apart from those understand change models, understand change, what else are there, for us to enable organizational transformation? And ultimately, it comes down to the last stage in terms of how do we, as Agile practitioners, as team leaders, help our team assist our leadership to design the journey together. And then we'll be finishing the webinar with a little bit of Q&A in terms of any questions you have or any of the things which you would like to share your own experience as well. Look at change. Okay, let's look at change. Let's explore a little bit about change. So this is where I want to give you a very brief update in terms of what's going to happen. As I've mentioned, for this Agile Transformation webinar series, we have brought 4 different webinars, which constitute the whole series. So if you look at it, the first one, we are going to look at Agile transformation from the human side of change. And the second one, we're going to look at, so for us to actually conduct any sort of transformation, for us, how do we actually explore what kind of strategy is best for us, and how do we actually make sure that the strategies which we come up with is actually aligned with our organizational goals. So that's the second one which we need to explore. The third one is about, as we crack on with transformation, as of any changes, you will have a lot of challenges, and how do we actually overcome those organizational impediments in the transformation journey? Okay, and the last one, the fourth one, and we are going to look at, so now how can we leverage on the collective intelligence and, based on effective communication, education, and also, facilitation to foster a culture. And this can actually enable us as a team to continuously improve what we do. And to keep every stakeholder engaged as we progress. So I do believe, no matter what role you are playing, in your organization, you might be an Agile coach, you might be a Scrum Master, you might be a team leader, whatever that role might be, it doesn't matter. By having this knowledge and be able to know, saying that, these are some of the things, now I'm aware, by having that awareness, you can actually make changes. May that be to yourself, to your team, and we can come to that. And obviously, we talk about Agile transformation. Transformation is a journey. And as of any journey, there'll be the fun part, there'll be the less fun part. And here, we will be presented with opportunities as well as challenges. But I do believe, by having the insight and having sort of information, we know where to start. We know, there'll be probably a crack or gap somewhere that we have to fill. And then you will be able to better understand what the transformation is like, what are the challenges which we want to anticipate, and also, how can we actually help our organization to create a successful transformation journey? So that's the plan. So today's focus, change, understand change, and especially on the human side of change. So before we're going to crack on to that, I actually have a question for you. One thing I want you to think of is, if you can reflect back on the change, the transformation journey, which you went through with your organization. So have a think about that and I want to ask you a question is, if you reflect on your journey and on your experience of the changes which you undergone, what are we actually changing? What are we actually changing? Have a think about it. And I want you to tell me your answer in the chat window, please. Yeah. So with all the changes we went through, what are we actually changing? Okay, we have got some answers coming already. Lovely. Okay, don't worry, there's no right or wrong. Okay, it's opinion and all opinions are valued. Haha. You don't need to come this webinar. You have got all the right answers already. Okay, so let's have a look at what we have got here. We have got culture, mindset, people, process, ways of working, mindset, people, process, roles, titles. Okay, Selena, I will take that as well. Organizational culture, the ways people relate, process, mindsets, behaviors, opportunity to review in a timely fashion, culture, mindset, culture, situation, demand, change, company name and ownership. Okay, culture, mindset, leadership. Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. So if you look at it, in any change which we do, they are literally two very significant things which we are changing. Okay, on one side, we have the tangible side of the change. So as some of our participants has rightly said here, we are changing the infrastructure of our organization. We are changing the technology of our organization. We are changing the processes, and we are updating our business operations, so on and so forth. Okay, I've been working on a number of projects in my career and helping things in terms of technology change. We implement a new IT platform or in retail banking, and we are trying to update all the self-service centers, across the UK. And all these are related to the tangible side of changes. Okay. What about the other aspect? The other aspect is more intangible in the sense that we are trying to change people's behavior. We are trying to alter people's attitude and then trying to, make that they adopt a new way of working. And as some of you have rightly said, the mindset, the culture of the organization which we're in. So ultimately, these are the more intangible side of things, which I also call this like the human side of change. Okay. So now, let me ask you a question. If I'm going to ask you a question, let's look at two aspects, tangible versus intangible. Which side of the change do you think is more difficult in organizational transformation? Okay, let me repeat my question again. Which side of the change or which aspects of the change do you think is more difficult in organizational transformation? Okay, it's okay. I know how a lot of people said intangible. What about other people? What are your thoughts? Do you think that's the case as well? Or you're thinking, well, I think it's tangible, but I don't feel like to say it. It's okay, okay? It's safe environment. So whatever you feel, by all means. All right, so let me take a look on the answers. Intangible, intangible. Okay, so all the answers I've received here in the chat window indicating that that's the intangible part of the change. And I can only say that I echo on that. Okay, and I felt for you as well if you have been into the changes and felt that it's more difficult. So,
sorry, I don't know that one.
All right, that's my Siri speaking. Apologies. She doesn't know, but we know better. Okay, so on that note, and I would like to explore a little bit. So we all know, okay, so we have got different aspects. We have the tangible versus intangible part. And so why is it important? I mean, we're doing changes, and why do we think it's important for us to actually understand the change from the human aspects? And I want to present you some of the data. Okay. So according to number of researchers, Okay, the figures might be slight variation, but you can get the sense of it. So literally a very low percentage of change initiatives actually achieve their intended outcome. Okay, and let's not mention about those large number of projects. I think it's about 1/3 as well, which literally just failed completely. Yeah, so we know that research has said only 20 to 30% change actually achieve what they intend to do. And if we look at some of the most common challenges in organizational transformation, and what do they include? So on the right-hand side, I have, based on research, made a list of the most common challenges an organization face when they are trying to implement changes or transformation programs. So what do we have? We have resistance from employees. No, I think I'm good. I don't want to do any change at all. Thank you very much. Yeah. And we have sometimes we are doing a change, but there's no clear vision, even if there is or might be one, and the people are not aware of it because they failed in communicating it. So there's lack of clear vision and communication. And also sometimes, you don't get buy-in from the leadership. Right? The senior stakeholder, they don't know, nor they take any interest in what we're trying to achieve. So without their support or engagement, it's also very hard, to pursue things and then to actually get things done sometimes. Okay, and carrying on, people are saying, we're going to do this great change. Okay, great. Now, with all the talking done, what's next? There's not enough training. There's not enough communication. There's not enough kind of like support being provided. So ultimately, that effort will end up in vain because you're not able to do anything different. Okay, and not to mention about any of the poor planning or poor execution, in trying to conduct those changes. So obviously, if you look at all this, right, there will be other factors that will contribute to the success or failure of any of the change initiatives for sure. Depends on, like what the organization is, and depends on the size of the organization, the size of the change program or change initiative, and depends on what the specific business context are we talking about. Things might vary, okay, and things might vary. But as you probably have already observed from the reported common challenges, most of them are related to the people side, like the human side of things. Okay, hence why it is very important for us to understand, okay, so now we appreciate, okay, the human side of the change plays a very important role, and then how are we going to do it? This is what we're going to look at next in terms of understanding the change models and the application of them. Okay, so we're going to look at this later. And then the final point here is, if you look at this, unsuccessful change initiatives are costly. Okay, they are very expensive. And if you look at the figure, it says 500 billion US dollars, 500 billion US dollars, ladies and gentlemen, and that's per year. Okay, imagine what we could use that money for. I would definitely retire to Barbados for sure. But these are the money, okay, which is wasted in vain because the change initiative was unsuccessful. So these might be, like indirect cost in terms of like wasted resources or, the loss of productivity, or it might be indirect cost as well in terms of like damage to employee morale, or it can be damage to organization reputation, for example, right? Say so and so, you said you're going to do X, Y, Z, but you failed. So, like the other competitors will be like, ha, and then the other market will be like, wow, they tried that, they're never successful in not doing that. So these kind of things, yeah. So all this bring us to the importance of understanding, appreciating, as well as managing, and we need to find a way in terms of how can we help our people, how can we manage their side of change better so that we can collectively as organization to achieve success in what we're trying to do. Okay. All right. So on that note, let's crack on. So let's talk about change and let's try to understand change. There are a lot of models, okay, a lot of models being developed over time, trying to tap into both the organizational side of a change as well as the human side of a change. Are there any of the change models which you are already aware of? I'm curious, okay? And if you are, what are these models? Can you also use the chat window to let me know what you are already aware, please? Like what are models, frameworks, which you already use to help you to get some understanding of changes? Lovely, okay? So we have got a proxy, okay? And Kotter, proxy, okay? Anything else? Car, yeah. Okay. It's an ad car, I believe, but we'll come to this in a bit. All right. Grow. Okay. Grow. Yeah. Coaching model. Ad car. Yes. Thank you, Karthik. Anyone else? Okay. So I absolutely echo with you. All these models are very commonly used models. Okay. Although according to me, I think Grow is more towards individual coaching perspective, trying to understand what is the goal, what is the reality, options, and the way forward. So you have a flow, right? So we manage that kind of like, a coaching model. But I think you can actually use as a change model as well, trying to help and identify what objectives are and helping people, guiding them through the journey. And one thing, okay, I want to mention to you is if we talk about any of the models, first of all, there are loads in that we know for a fact. Some of you have already mentioned from the organization perspective, we have got proxy ADCA model. Yeah, we have got John Kotter's 8-step change model. We have got others like Lewin's change, like unfreeze, like freeze, something like that, like 3-stage changes. And from the human perspective, there are loads as well in terms of like Kubler-Ross 5-stage of change. And we also have got I think the Satya in terms of change model, as well as there was edge theory, which we use in some of the courses we teach as well. So there are loads. One thing I want to mention to you here is change models, they help you to gain a better understanding, but a model or a framework is never complete. Okay, please bear that in mind. Just because we know the model, it doesn't mean everything, every organization, every person will fit into that. But ultimately, it comes to you. The power comes to you in terms of based on what we already know as models, based on our experience and based on the information which I'm present with, the context, how I'm going to put everything together, and I'm going to make a collective understanding, and I'm going to make a judgmented call in terms of what will be the best by understanding the people, talking to them collectively, what is next step. So please bear in mind, a model framework never complete. Okay, so it's you, how you use them that matters. All right, so let's look into some of the models. So personally, ADCA is one of my, let's say, top listed models.
Something. Can you say it again?
Sorry, I will shut it up after this. I forgot to do that. All right, so let's talk about ADCA. So when we talk about ADCA, what does that mean? Okay, so this is actually a powerful model because it's all goal-oriented and it helps us to manage the change. If you look at it, we are looking at 5 concrete outcomes which we need to achieve, for us to create a long-lasting change. What are the 5 steps? Awareness, design, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. Okay, so some of you are already aware of this, and I'm just going to do it really quickly. And if you are interested, please do some research, okay? Because all these models are your tools. And when the real scenario emerges, you can actually use these tools to help you to solve a problem. And another reason why I love this model, is because it is not only useful for planning. Say, for example, I'm going to implement a change and I can follow these 5 steps, to create a plan in terms of how I intend to carry this out. But also, if I'm in the middle of something, if something's not quite right, I can also use this model for diagnose purposes in terms of what have I missed? If things are not adding up, what is it I can do? Okay, so we can use this for diagnosis and to investigate what are the challenges which we have. Okay. So very quickly then, 5 steps, and bear in mind that this is one step after the other. Okay, so this is a one linear approach. So one thing has to happen before the next thing. So the first thing is awareness. So awareness of the need for change. Say, For example, right, because I used to work in a program to implement a new IT platform. So the new IT platform, and if you imagine, right, we are trying to do this. If the people, the users, have got no awareness of what is coming their way at all, and they might be thinking, oh, they're doing this again, it's like just a waste of time. There's no point, and everything is fine. Why do we even do the change? Okay. But if you flip the coin, saying that now I'm preparing you for this, I'm making you aware, saying that this is what is coming in your way and this is what we're doing, the employee would actually understand this better. The people, the user would actually be anticipating it instead of saying that, I don't think why they're doing that. They'll be like, oh, how soon this will be happen? How will this be impacting me and my team? And when can I anticipate to get on some training, so on and so forth. So creating that awareness and letting people know what they will become in that way, this really helps. Okay, so you literally, according to me, you are setting up the scene. You are preparing people for it. And in my communication, in my way of doing, I always want to give people like a look ahead, right? In terms of this is coming your way. And I tend to call myself organized and being able to plan things ahead as much as I can. But that's awareness. So move on. Okay, so we'll talk about design. So design to support and participate in the change. So with the awareness, okay, and in terms of like the change is actually required. For example, in the example I'm giving you, like the IT new platform. So literally we're telling people saying that, okay, we intend to, okay, implement, the rollout of the new IT platform, and we intend to do XYZ by this time, and then followed by blah, blah, blah. So you're sending people this information, and then with that awareness, people, they might still saying that, well, what's in it for me? Okay, so this is where you're actually helping them to get clarity in terms of this is coming in your way, and this is what is in it for you. So this is where you're going to give them like a motivator. For example, in my case, the example I gave you is literally because the old one doesn't support some of the functionalities which are being required by the project team. So now we are replacing this with a new one that we can support and we can have enhanced functionality. So literally we are making people aware of all these amazing things coming their way, and all of a sudden you felt there's a way of change. Okay, so instead of saying, well, I'm not interested, I don't think you guys are serious about that, and they will be saying, okay, but this is great, and what do we actually said? What are the top 3 things, which I'm able to benefit from this new platform, stuff like that. So you're changing the tide by creating the design, for the people who are going to be using the system. And next is knowledge. So now with awareness, design, okay, great. Now it's about time for us to give people the knowledge and then of how we can actually conduct that change. So literally we are showing them what the details are, how can you actually use this new software platform to do your report or to create some sort of like status and updates, so on and so forth. So you're giving them the knowledge to do that. But please be aware, knowledge and ability are 2 different things. A lot of people confuse these 2, but they are very, very different. Just because you know something doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to do it. So giving people knowledge is a great starting point. You provide people the training, you give them all the information they need, but please do follow up with the ability. Okay, how can we actually implement the change? So this is where you will see in some pilot program, you will have champions, the people who can actually lead the team members to go through the functionalities of the say, for example, the software platform, stuff like that, to show them this is what you do if you want X, and this is what we do if you want Y. And then once you show them, demonstrate them, you're helping them to actually come up with this ability to maneuver in the new system themselves. Okay, so that's why the ability is quite important, so that you literally setting them on the wheel. Okay, so now they can ride the bike themselves. And the last stage is reinforcement. In terms of, okay, so now we have got ability, we know how to use the new system. But remember, human beings are animals of habits. Sometimes if you don't anchor that new habit, you will roll back to the old habits. It's like me, okay? I always said, okay, I am going to, wake up early and I'm going to hit the gym, like say twice in a week at least. And I can continue for probably 2 weeks. And the third week, I'll be like, you know what? I can stay another half an hour in bed. That'll be really nice. So you have to reinforce, and so that the change is sustained. Okay, so make sure that you think from that perspective as well in terms of what you need to do to make sure that there's no way back. There can always be pushed forward rather than roll back to the old habits of doing. All right, so this is a flow. As I've mentioned, okay, this is one-way street, so you cannot go back. It's one way. And what I have observed, okay, in my career working for some of the large banks is normally, okay, when I know some change is coming in my way is when I see an email landing up in my inbox saying that you have to, attend this training on this date. And I was like, I didn't even know they're changing that. And then that's when the knowledge part kick in. Okay, you probably will observe that as well. So I want you to have a think about it in terms of if you are delivering any changes. Okay, and if someone tells you, say you have to attend the training without knowing like why we're doing this and do I even need this, like the awareness and the design, how does that feel? Okay, so if you swap it, standing in the shoes of the user, you will know how important it is to actually follow the flow of ADKAR. All right, I'll leave you to have a think of that, but this is just something I would like to share, from my personal experience. And another thing I want to mention is we talk about this from an organization perspective. If you want to manage change, if you want to plan or diagnose if anything goes wrong, in your organization transformation or any of the change programs you do, this is something which is very powerful, easy, and something which I would strongly recommend you to think of when you're doing the change. Now, let's take a step back. Let's talk about change from the human perspective. Again, as I've mentioned, there are loads of things and models or frameworks. But the one thing I want to introduce to you is called the Kubler-Ross 5-stage of change. So some of you might have heard of this already. Okay. So Kubler-Ross is a researcher, and then I think she actually started this originally by studying human beings, how they react to unpleasant news. Okay, so when people heard unpleasant news and what are the stage of the emotion they go through, and this is what she came back with. And gradually, and then this model has been used by management, project management, saying that, what, this actually applies the same way. These are all the normal reactions, which people go through. So what are the 5 stages? Let's take a look. The first stage is denial. And this is when people will be saying, well, I can't believe this is happening. This is not happening, not to me. Some sort of like a denial. It's literally like, have you seen that? It's like you are kind of like ostrich. If things happening, if things are scary, you literally bury your head in the sand, don't you? So this is where I say, oh, no, this is not happening. So that's a denial stage when you heard some unpleasant news. For example, if someone is going to tell me saying that you've been made redundant, or if someone is telling me saying that you have been diagnosed with, let's say, an unpleasant disease, and I'll be like, oh, no, this is not happening to me. So denial, okay? And next stage is anger. So this is about like, okay, so once you're in the denial stage, and as you comes to understanding, saying, okay, I'm not going away anywhere. This is really happening to me. I really have been diagnosed with this disease. And then this is where next stage is anger, because what did I do to deserve that? I'm so angry. I cannot believe, this is, I don't accept this. I don't accept this is happening to me. I've been such a nice person. Why would this happen to me? So you have this anger, you have this emotion outburst where, you'll be like blaming people around you. If say someone made me redundant, I'll blame the boss. I'll blame the government. I'll blame probably anyone who comes to me, talking about it. So this is the anger stage. Yeah, and next one is the bargaining stage. So the bargaining stage is, okay, you know what, I'm not going away with this. So what is I can do? So this is a reaction in terms of I'm trying to postpone what is coming to me. And if you are saying that you can make me redundant, and what is I can do? okay, to keep my job. I can work extra hours if you need me to. I can do certain things to compromise only if you can let me keep my job. Right? And I still remember a friend of mine, okay, so he has been a smoker. So one point of time, he has been coughing a lot. He went to the doctor suspected, he has got some bad disease with regard to his lungs. And all of a sudden, he'll be like, you know what, I'll quit smoking straight away. Yeah. So with that help, would that help me to get better? And all these kind of things, because now we're in a bargaining stage, I would do anything, okay, to not let that happen to me. Bargaining. Okay. And once you know that, no matter what you do, it's still going to happen. And this is where your energy will come to the lowest, and you will be in the face of depression, thinking that, I'm so sad. What's the point? What's the point of doing anything at all? Right? I am going to be made redundant, and I'm going to be jobless in a month's time, or I'm going to have this disease, for a lifetime, or I'm going to die probably, I don't know, like whatever life is left for me. And this is where the energy hit the lowest, and then you will be feeling really bad about the whole situation until something happens and you realize, you know what, being depressed does not help me in other way. It will be fine. Life goes on, and you start to accept what is happening. So this is where you see the curve going up, saying, now, great, if I'm going to be jobless in a month, let me start looking for a job now. Let me post my CV on the job portals. If I've been diagnosed with this disease, okay, fine, I'm going to die in the next year. Let me see what I can do, for my family, for my children, what is it I can do, in my remaining time to spend time with them, so on and so forth. So you will see the energy start to change, okay? And on that note, this curve, by the way, might not necessarily be linear, and it can happen to a lot of people going through a lot of different issues. Okay, so if you look at it, for example, we have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Everyone might have a different circle, okay, in terms of going through that. Some of them might skip through some of the stages. Some of them might have got different experiences. Some of them can get through the whole circle within a matter of weeks. Some of them takes months or even years to go through the whole thing. So it does vary from person to person, situation to situation. But what I'm trying to say here is, with this understanding, okay, if you are doing a transformation program, if you are trying to implement a change, you would anticipate people will be going through different stages. And how are you as an Agile coach, or as a team leader, or as any practitioner role you are in, and are there to help people? If they are going through some emotional status or turbulence of denial, anger, what is it you can do? What is the help you can offer? I want you to think about it. And that might not be the same in different phases across the person's journey, okay? So again, this power is back to your hand in terms of understanding it. How can we align with what we have? Yeah, how can we align with the approaches, situation, and how we can help our team to go through this journey successfully? And this is something which we need to think about, and we need to adopt different stances, which I'm going to come to in a bit as well. All right, so let me move on. So we talk about change model. Okay, we have a deep dive into the change model. Great. So now, how are we going to apply, applying those change models, and how does that actually help in different ways? So here we're talking about understanding people's journey of change. And this is like understanding, for example, just now we talk about different stages people go through, and then understand how, these kind of stages would actually manifest in individuals or in groups, so that we can have a better understanding and, be actually empathetic about what they are going through. Remember, Agile is all about the focus on people. So this is essential for us to understand and then, take action, rather than saying that this is the change happening, let's all go do it. But first of all, appreciate people from the human aspects. Okay. And also understanding people's change process, and as organization, we can better anticipate. So we are going to announce this unpleasant change, for example. And then what are the things we can anticipate? What are the things we can manage? What are the things, we can have control and start preparing for? These are some of the things you need to think of, and then develop a strategy in terms of how can we best support our people through the whole change process. Okay. And obviously, very, very important, yeah, the engagement of our people, engagement of our employee in the whole process. We talk about communication, we talk about education, we talk about the training, what is required. Yeah, so how can we make our people, employee, as part of the journey? How can we make them part of the decision making as well as problem solving? So prioritize their engagement, prioritize their buy-in and commitment. This will make our transformation journey much easier and also reduce the resistance which we might face as we start to roll out the transformation. Okay. And lastly, we're talking about, like any change can be an emotional journey for people, okay, for the human beings which we're dealing with. And we need to understand, okay, how they respond to changes. And by acknowledging them, their emotions, their feelings, and addressing them, and addressing their emotions, their perceptions, and this would actually make them feel being heard. So we are here to know changes, we're here to do changes, yes, but we understand your perspective and we heard your opinion, we value them, and this is what we can do. May it be a compromise, may it be a different way of working, but we are trying to create a very supportive as well as enabling environment for people to come up from the change and being able to, gain some new skills or delivering value in a better way. Okay. So this is about applying those models and how this can help us. So I talked about the competencies earlier. So if we look at it, how are we going to enable Agile transformation from our own side? There are different things, okay? There are different competencies which we need to adopt. Depends on your team, depends on what is needed at the particular time or in your particular context. If we look at it, right, we have got teaching, mentoring, coaching, and obviously there's facilitation as well, working with large groups. But from a more directive, which is the push side, that's the teaching. If your team maturity is a bit low, okay, maybe you need to teach them in terms of what we're doing, how we're going to do it. And then if your team maturity is a bit high and then, your team is already self-organizing, then maybe we don't need to be that directive anymore. And we're just trying to pull in terms of, trying to empower them doing what we do and then to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of how we do. So we create high-performing teams. So that's the whole spectrum of the capabilities which we are working towards. This is something which we spend a lot of time talking about in the ACC program. So that's our Agile team coaching program. And that's like 16-hour course, but I personally find this very helpful. Okay, and if you don't know about it, if you haven't explored about it, please do look into it because this will help you to build your journey, in terms of how you can become a better leader, Agile coach, Scrum Master. So look at the competencies and how you can improve, what you need to improve and how you can improve. Okay, so on that note, another point I want to make is regarding mindset. It's easier said than done, I know, okay? But when we talk about mindset, please do not be surprised. And there are lots of people, which we work with have the fixed mindset in terms of we do what we do, we don't do what we don't do, okay? And then this is how we do it, and we don't want to do it because we've never been that before, and it will not work. But then this is where you need to be challenging, you need to challenge them, and then you need to helping them moving towards the growth mindset in terms of even if this is something we haven't done before, or this is something, which, like can be upsetting because we didn't get the success in the first time of trying. But let's try to see that, what is it that we can do to improve? What is it that the gap we can fill and then moving on from here? So ultimately, we are not seeing anything as a failure, but an opportunity to improve. Okay, so what is that? So trying to migrate your team or the people or the organization which you're working with to shift their mindset from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset. And even better, if you can try to encourage your team to embrace the Agile mindset. Okay, so we talk about embrace the uncertainty. It's okay, everything changes. The only constant is the change, right? So let's be flexible. Let's be adaptive. Instead of being rigid about our approach, what is the new things we can try? What is the different ways of working we can give it a go? And if it doesn't work, that's fine. Okay, we can review and we can adapt and we can change from there. And then make sure that we focus on value, okay? Value, 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 because a lot of teams, a lot of organizations, they focus on output. We are not interested in output, we are interested in outcome, being the value which we're able to create. And also make sure that, if you define the value, you track it and you use different metrics, you use OKRs or whatever KPIs you have, saying, okay, this is what we're doing, because only when you can measure, you can improve. If you can't measure, you can't improve. Okay, so this is the evidence, this is data you need to collect to help you to focus on what is value and how can we improve that value. And following that, okay, the Agile mindset also help us to manage and control risks. Because if you look at it, what we're doing is we're doing a pilot. We build something, we measure, and we understand, what is the progress, is it working for us or not? We learn something, and we use the learning to build on our next stage. So this is about constantly taking feedback and adapt and deliver better value. Okay, so change is nothing but a continuous process of improvement. Okay, it's not event, it's not one-off, it's constant ongoing, and it's a process as a team, as individual, as organization. We need to understand it. It's a process of improvement. Yeah. And please, I know that if you're working in Agile, probably you're very familiar with it already, because anything which we do is not about me. Okay, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about the whole team, and it's about the collaboration between the team. So interactions and ownership of the task and shared ownership of our success and the vision and everything, that's what is important. It's not about what I want for the team, but it's about what the team wants to happen. Okay, so if we can agree on that, we have a shared vision, shared goal, it's easier and people are more engaged to achieve that. All right. Next one. Okay, so what we do is we're trying to focus on the people and focus on empowering people to form high-performing teams and create value. So based on the first, the one before we talk about is never about you as a person, how successful you are, but let's look at things from people's perspective, from teams' perspective, and even from organizations' perspective in terms of how we can work collectively to empowering the people in our team to create value. All right. So this is something which I would like to share. And if I think there was I think it was Microsoft. So in the early 2000s, it actually had some difficulty because it's so big, and everything is like a struggle just to keep up with the very fast changing market. So the CEO back then, I think he did something which is really smart. So he said, okay, instead of focusing on the activities, on the output, and let's have some different changes. So he actually implemented a series of changes, right? So what he has done is he encouraged his team and encouraged his leadership team as well as the whole organization to create some sort of like a more innovative and agile culture. Yeah. So this is where the agile mindset comes in, because he is literally saying that, let's embrace failure as an opportunity to learn and grow, which it is. Yeah. And the team was so encouraged. And then from there, they actually shift the focus. And in terms of like, let's focus now on what we can learn and what we can continuously improve, rather than let's say that this is a target, we have to hit it, but what is the lessons learned, what is it we can improve. So by doing that, okay, and this program and these changes which he helped the organization to actually carry on, and they actually managed to shift the people's mindset. Yeah, so this is where you will see that it is actually very successful nowadays. I think it actually surpassed some of the other organizations like the big giants, Amazon, Apple in 2018 or something like that, because this is the change which he has embarked his team to complete. Hence why there's evidence out there why it is important for us to embrace the agile mindset, why it's important to not see failure as failure, but opportunity to improve. And why do we do this incrementally and consistently, saying that we can keep on moving forward. Okay, so agile mindset. And this is something I want to make you aware. All right. I think by the time, okay, we talk a lot of things in terms of how we can like in how we can understand change, how we can use those change models, and how we can enable the agile transformation from different aspects. So it's not easy, okay, and it's probably taking efforts across different organization functions, and it might take a time span over years to implement some sort of transformation changes. One thing I want you to think of is, given all the stuff, right? We know it's hard work, but please be aware that everything starts from yourself. So I want you to think about questions such as, how are you going to equip yourself, with the knowledge and the competencies? And how are you going to lead by example? How are you going to influence your stakeholders and drive value for your organization? And how are you going to work with your team to deliver, some successful transformation program? So all this will come back to you. If you are in some sort of a change, have a think of it. If you are not, then think about, what are some opportunities which you can help your team to improve. So I'm going to give you a very quick minute, and I want you to reflect on what we have talked about so far, and then write down some of the key takeaways and actions, please. Yeah, so I'm going to give you a minute for that. I actually have a timer in front of me, so I'll let you know once the minute is done. Okay, that's exactly 1 minute. So have a think about it, and please do take time to self-reflect. Okay, this is a time where actually take a pause, think about how we can improve, what else we can do, and then what things I can do to fill the gap, so on and so forth. And it is very important. And I strongly recommend it as an individual, as a team, you should probably keep time aside just to do that reflection, feedback. Okay. All right. So one last thing I want to share with you is in terms of how we as Leadership Tribe can help you. So as I've mentioned in the beginning, we do provide a number of certified trainings. So in terms of the competencies which I talk about, this is something which we cover at the team level in Agile coaching. Okay, so this is one path in terms of, if you're working at team level, you can start from the fundamental courses and to become a job team facilitator, where what is the best way, how we can organize and make effective use of the timings, and to getting people collaborate and working towards the same goal. And Agile coaching is more about your role as a coach. What are the key competencies you have, and how you can use some of the coaching skills to empower your team member. So as a team, you can collectively, create the high-performing team. And if you're working across functions, and if you're working at the enterprise level, then this is something you might be interested in, which is we talk about the business agility, right? So we have a foundation course, moving on to enterprise agility coaching, and then coaching agile transformation. So the major differences from these two is, according to me, ENT is more focused on the organization side of things. Okay, and looking at what are the things, from the process structure perspective. And then CAT is more focused on the human side of things in terms of, how can we help our people, our leadership, how can we grow them, so collectively we can create this agile organization. Yeah, so different levels, one is team level, one is enterprise level. So if it's something which you're interested, you can obviously take them separately, but this is a boot camp, ENT, CAT, ATF, ACC. And if you're interested, and I do believe we'll have some upcoming courses, which my colleague will be sharing you, or else you can explore on our website, and then, and see that if it's something you would like to do next to improve your competencies. And we have also agility in leadership. So if you are already a team leader, or if you are, like already doing some of the directing work for your team, so you might be interested in terms of like learning from a leadership perspective, how can you lead with agility and how can you work to develop your people? Yeah, so this is different learning paths, but by all means, you can explore on IC Agile website or on our website, which my colleague is going to paste the link in the chat window. I'm happy to open the room. If you have any questions or if you have any experience you would like to share, please use this, time left to, let's discuss this all together. Okay. And in the meanwhile, let me stop sharing and let me see if there's any questions. Aksa, there's no question in Q&A. Does that mean that I've done a great job? Oh, sorry, talking too early. Just now something popped up. Thank you, Rebecca. All right, let me see. Okay, Rebecca, you're asking to share some metrics for Agile transformation. All right, so this is a very big question, Rebecca, and it depends on what aspects are you looking at, and then what sort of metrics do you need? And then it's not something which I can just give you everything, but what is it exactly you need? If it's a very specific, what I would recommend you to do is just email me. Okay, so you can use the same email address, hello@leadershiptribe.com, and then my team will forward that to me. If you have anything particular, saying that, is managed, it's regarding how we measure, let's say, employee happiness, or how we're going to measure like the success of the program, stuff like that. So please be more specific, and I should be able to pick up from there. Is that okay, Rebecca? Sorry, I mean, this is very vast, so I literally don't know where to start. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. All right, what else? Kiran has said, can we measure the values in Kubler-Ross change stages through interviewing or any other means? Wow, great question, Kiran. Thank you so much. So I think in very general terms, yes, okay, we can. And however, when it comes to like the specific, like what is your objectives are, what you're trying to do, like what are your purpose and what are the desired outcome, and from those perspectives, we need to design it appropriately. Okay, so there are different measurement and there are different stuff which you can use. It can be quantitative, like you can collect information from the survey, by asking people, like let's say how happy they are, what do they feel, and or it can be more qualitative, which means from an interview focus group, you can gather some feedback. All of them are valuable. But ultimately, it depends what is the objective you're trying to achieve, and you need to select what is the right approach to use as well. Does that help, Kiran? Okay, I haven't seen anything, but I will assume that's a yes. Sorry, if not, then, oh, thank you very much. Okay, great. All right, on that note, any further questions? No? Okay, on that note then, okay, I'm going to give you the valuable 1 minute back to your diary. It was lovely meeting you all. Have a nice day, and wherever you are. And I look forward to see you in the upcoming webinars, which my lovely colleague just pasted in the chat window. Okay, so please do register, and I look forward to see you guys, in the near future. Thank you and take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Anirudh. Thank you. Bye-bye.